Late start today. You know, I have to say, and I'm gonna take this is when you have so much going on and your cup is full. What do I always say? So many bits of information goes by. So, welcome everyone. Today we're actually going to be talking about the power of language to create change in organizations.
Yeah.
And we've been talking about the influencer series all of this month. And today it's really about change and how influencing can create change. Yeah. So now today we are going to talk about the different types of transformations. We're going to talk about some things that are going to be happening in our worlds in relation to that. Oh my God, is my lipstick messed up here? I feel like I'm like the Joker when I was looking in here.
I can't tell.
I do. When I'm looking in there, you know, when you can see, I'm like, I feel like the Joker right now. Anyways, okay. Don't ever like be able to see yourself when you're doing these things, folks.
Yeah, exactly.
It's distracting. So you're going to actually share a tidbit today. So last week I shared the suggestion model. So you're going to actually share something this week for the folks. So we're going to touch on all the different elements when it comes to language and change. I mentioned when we post on this storytelling. We never really think about that classified under language of telling a story, but it has everything to do to it. Because what people say and the way they tell a story connects to you emotionally.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's why we connect to all those movies, and that's why we start binging on Netflix or Amazon or whatever, because we resonate and we connect to the hero and to their story and to what they're going through, and then it just brings back maybe either memories of what happened to us in the past or wishes, dreams for the future and how we would like to be, how we would like to act. So yeah, of course. And we connect on the emotional level. And I feel like, and you and I we're fans of bringing the human back into the workplace and into the organization, because I think when we talk about the power of language, we talk about the power of different kinds of languages. Like when we're emotionally charged, it's very hard to have a logical, rational conversation. And it's like two languages. It's as if we spoke two different languages that we don't understand. It's the rational and the emotional. Like if I'm super emotional and you're super rational, we're never going to get each other, and we're never going to be able to
it's a mix match.
Influence one another. It's total mismatch. It's like two magnets that just oppose one another instead of attracting each other.
And it can work if you're trying to attract alike, but if you're in an organization that's actually trying to create change, it's not about like, it's about bringing everyone along, and you have to think about all those different aspects of it. Because we talked about with language and really understanding what you use may only be for you, right? We've done with the language and behavior, with the lab profile. I shared the suggestion model. We talked about the SCARF, even where people's different social emotional triggers, that the words that you say, if I'm talking about things that are going to make people feel uncertain, you might choose a different language for those types of people, because they need to know what lies ahead. So when I talk about transformations, this is a great example, or OKR implementations. That's something so new, so foreign, so different. You're going somewhere completely of how people work today. Mm-hmm. And if they can't see the forest through the trees of what that end state can look like, or the steps to get there, and they might not need complete details, but just enough so they feel certain, and they feel that they're a part of it. So the language and the words that you choose would help them along.
would help them along, and also
or bring them along.
But see, I think, and that's why, because I realize what we're both doing. See what we're doing when we're talking, and we do this all the time. We're building on each other. Right? You say something, and I repeat part of what you just said, and I said, and also this, and that. This is what you also do. Oh, I like where you're going, and this also means that this. That's why a great exercise that you can do at any point in time that's going to be brilliant in giving you more results and helping people open up is the yes and we're doing it without even realizing that we're doing it. And that's the problem or the benefit of language. When you're doing things or saying things, sometimes you don't even realize how you're saying and what you're saying it, and in how you're saying what you're saying. And that's important because that defines what's going to happen next in the conversation. Because if I'm saying, yes, Veronica, that's a great idea, but here's where I don't agree with it, and here's how this is not going to work, compared to when I say, yes, Veronica, that's a great idea, and it also builds on this other idea, and they're complementary, and then we start to build.
Yeah, but it's such a lot of us just how we talk, and I can
Yes.
just as guilty as we don't really think about it, but
we don't
look at that. But as part of how a lot of us talk, we don't realize it's almost like a disconnect versus and.
Yeah.
Or just pausing and kind of trying to throw that word out.
Yeah.
It has this natural disconnect that we all have learned to use in the way that we talk. And we don't even realize it.
No, we don't. Because we take all of it. It's a speech pattern, like anything else. It's a habit that we can have. Right? And everyone, the thing is, like, we all have it, but there's a few things that you can actually do to change the way in which people are gonna react to what it is that you're saying, because the way that you say things and the things that you say, that's also going to help you change the way that you think about the situation and the way that you say it. And one of the things is, for instance, changing whenever you can. Obviously, we cannot completely ditch the but in a conversation.
It's hard.
It's hard. And
I mean, sometimes it's hard.
Right? Really? I mean, come on. But try it and see when you can replace it, what happens to you. And what happens to what you say after the end, because it's not easy, because you actually have to find something that you relate to from what the person had just said to you.
And context is king.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if you're just sitting there with trusted friends having a drink or whatever, then allow yourself to let go. Because if you're always overthinking of what comes out of your mouth, it's no fun. No. In all honesty, it's something that I've learned when I started like going that journey of learning about life and success coaching. I started to get a lot more self-conscious, where it's like, oh my gosh, this is tiring. I have to always constantly think about what I say, what comes out of my mouth. Like, this is just not natural living for me. No. But I'll use the but right now. However,
it's a good context. It's
the context of, if you and I are having a conversation, we have divergent thinking. That's where it's an opportunity to pause and think about, and this is where a lot of people say active listening, right? Think about what the other person has said and really resonate with their words of how they're saying it, in addition to what they're saying.
Yeah.
And what I've found is that if you repeat back what they said, not paraphrase, big difference. How many of you guys learned that in communication to paraphrase. When you paraphrase, you're basically putting your own spin and perception of what the person said versus repeating back exactly what they said.
Yeah.
Where the person might not connect to. I found that sometimes when I did it, they're like, no, that's not what I said. When you try to paraphrase.
Yeah.
But when you do that and you repeat it during a conversation that you might have difference of opinions or you're trying to move someone along, it connects more in that conversation. Mm-hmm. It also makes the other person feel that they're being heard.
Yeah, I love that, because here's the thing. You know how we learn differently, right? So we have the learning styles. In other words, how we learn, how we prefer to learn new information, how we prefer to understand new information. So some of us are going to be visual, some of us are going to be auditory, and some of us are going to be sensory, right? When you're in a conversation and you're saying something, if you're a visual person, a more visual person, you will want to see that the other person is listening. I want to see you listening. So I'm gonna be how I see as a visual person that you're listening is through the body language and the eye contact and you're encouraging me, you're facing me, and you're paying attention to me. I can see you paying attention to me. That's what I need as a visual person. As an auditory person, I need to hear that you're listening to me. So I need to hear back some of those words, some of the key words that I'm saying to you. And I need to hear your questions as well, because that takes the pressure off of me. And it tells me that you're interested, because obviously when you're asking me a question, you want to find out more. So you're interested. So I hear that you're listening to me. And as a sensory person, I need to feel that you're listening to me. I need to feel you there, engaged, and I need to do all of the things. You need to give me the body language, and you need to feel what I feel to connect with me on that emotional level, because that tells me, that shows me that you're listening to me. So
and that body language is huge, because 55% is physiological. But let's put a wrench in the mix. Is you're not in person. You're trying to create change, right? Mm-hmm. Any context. You could be in a team, you could do whatever, but camera's off. All you have is a face. Usually, there's a picture. And the person talking, like that. And that's it. So when we think about the different sensories, that's where what you say becomes so important. Because if you are visual, you're going to have to put in context that they actually can visualize what you're saying.
Yes.
So you might be using words that are more in line with a visual type person. Mm-hmm. Whereas I'm an auditory digital, and I think I remember you're kinesthetic. Like I'm auditory, visual. I like to say words like I think, I believe. Yeah. And so you use particular words that kind of resonate with that type of person. Where kinesthetic, you're going to use feelings and anything that is related to that type of sensory. So body language, if it lacks the ability to see it, you have to make it up for it in a different way.
Yeah, exactly. And you can tell, like when you talk to somebody, again, if you really pay attention and you're a good listener, you will hear those words that they use. Like they will use, and you talk to a visual person, definitely make sure that you say something like, let's imagine, or let's look at this together, right? That's different. When you talk to an auditory person, it's let's talk about this together. Let's have a discussion. Let's have a conversation. And when you talk to a sensory or kinesthetic person, you say, okay, let's meet and see how it would feel to do this.
Yeah, they let's experiment. That tactile.
Yeah. let's experiment. Let's get a sense of this. And that's what's gonna get their attention. But you have to actually initially pay attention to them, to what they say, to those keywords that they use, so that you can also use them back, because that is what's going to help you connect both on a personal and a professional level, because they're going to be together anyway. It's not like when we're at work we only speak professional language, and then when we're at home we only speak personal language. It doesn't happen like that. No way. It's there. Who I am, that's going to come out in my communication style, definitely. Wow. And how I communicate to you, the thing is, and this is where communication breakdown happens, is the way that I communicate with you, I expect to get the same kind of communication and style from you. And obviously that's not going to happen because we have different communication styles. But then the trick is, when I don't get the information that I need from you, to also be able to ask for it. That's another thing that we don't know how to do using the power of language. Like, ask. You're telling me something, you're giving me the background and information. I don't have enough. I need to ask. It's my responsibility as the other party in the conversation to make sure that I clarify and that I understand what you mean.
It's funny because I had an activity that, because I was training before this, and they were doing the sticky notes of a particular phrase question that I was asking. I looked at the sticky note. I could have instantly read it and made my own assumptions of what that meant, but I didn't. And that's a good but, by the way. I asked, what did they mean? I got curious. I wanted to understand. And so when the person explained that sticky note, it was completely opposite of the way I read it. Opposite.
How often does that happen? Yes, exactly. Good that you checked.
Because that one word that they put on there, I was looking at it a different way. I've had lots. I don't know any of you have ever experienced this working. If you've ever read an email or a chat or what might have you, and you read it a wrong way. There's a lot of words that have different meanings.
Yes.
And I've had scenarios. I remember this is back in my 20s when I was an implementation manager, right, of implementing software, and they just went into production. I was supporting them, and I misunderstood one word that the woman said, and I can't even remember the word right now. It's like, but it was the difference between her being upset. Oh, it was resent. She was talking about resending a file, and I thought she meant she resent what I said in the previous email. I remember now. How could I forget this? And I was mortified. I was like, oh my God, I pissed off this client. And I instantly replied versus just asking for clarification. She was talking about a file. She wasn't mad at me.
That's such a great example. Oh my God. But it happens so often. And talk about creating change. Like, how can you create change in any kind of organization, large or small? It doesn't even matter, when you don't even speak the same language and where you don't even try to understand what the other means, because that's the trick with communication.
And the key thing is, when we talk about the power of language, it's the power of learning the languages.
Yes, exactly.
Because everyone is different. I don't want to change who I am. I am who I am. What I want to do is create better connections and relationships with people by learning this power that I have, which is what comes out of my mouth.
Exactly, because that's what you can control.
Yeah. And imagine if we learn this in education. at a young age about the power of language versus the grammatically correct can't, cannot, and all of these things. I'm not saying they're bad, but what if we actually learned how to foster more positive, loving, rewarding communication between people and the power that we have? Like there's a video just on the power of words, the water experiment, right? Of what it could do. These are things that I didn't learn that. I don't know about you, but I didn't learn that as a child. And of course, my parents never learned it. So I didn't get taught in at home. So these are things that we're all learning today with so much change in organizations and being more aware of what the power it can do. And so when we talk about being an influencer, and those of you that are change agents, change champions, agile coaches, scrum masters, right? All of those things that are out there today, this is a tool set that you have every ability to learn and master because you have total control. It's your voice.
It's your voice, and it's your words, and it's your choice of words. Because again, like
choice,
it's the choice. It's all about what words you choose to use or not use. That's gonna make a big difference. And one of the biggest things that I learned, I went to I still remember it to this day, was a communication skills training for psychologists. And they were talking about nonviolent communication. And that's a great, that's an amazing, and the way that you look at it, it's also, that's where the I language comes in. And that's where you understand that you can only describe things and communicate things from your own perspective, because you cannot see, that's the only that's the perspective that you have, right? It's your own. You cannot express something on behalf of anyone else but you. That's it.
That was the biggest takeaway I had from that book when I read it. And this was many moons ago. That I don't even remember all of the book. I actually pick it up again, in truth. Right. Now you just reminded me, a good refresher. Those of you that are not familiar, it's the nonviolent communication. And do you remember the author? They even have an institute of nonviolent communication.
Yes.
But the biggest takeaway was when you are speaking to someone, and you're speaking to what, like Roxana's talking about, is on their behalf of how they feel and how they think.
Yeah.
And the biggest takeaway that I had was you should be talking about how you feel and how you think of something, but never presume the other person, because what will automatically end up happening? They go on the defense.
Exactly.
What's a cliche like response that anybody would say is, how do you know how I feel? How do you know I'm thinking that?
It's the you're right, you're wrong model. Like if I tell you you're wrong, Veronica, you're going to say I'm not. Because when I tell you something about you that you know better, you get to say that to me. Oh, no, I'm not, Roxana, you're wrong. Like when I start with you, because I'm looking at you, yeah, you're wrong. Instead of saying, I have a different perspective, Veronica.
Yeah, and
you're not gonna say to me, no, you don't. Actually, Roxana, you don't have a different perspective.
And regardless of what your motivation pattern is, that that we dive into, if you're internal or external.
Yeah, I just commented with the name of the book and
so the non-violent, oh God, what was I just saying? So anyways, the patterns of internal and external is no matter what, by just saying that, either I'm internal and I'm not going to basically think you're credible anymore, because now I'm making a decision and going, okay, who is she to say that, right? If I'm external and I'm all into feedback, now I'm taking that and now I'm swimming in my head.
Yeah.
And probably everything else that you say after that, I am still the same way as the internal person. You put me in the threat mode versus the reward state where, in our brain, it's still going to be some mechanism of defense is my point. I'm either going to be defensive because I'm like, who are you to say that? Or I'm going to be defensive because now I'm in a protective mode because you gave me feedback that I feel is crushing.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to want to understand is why, Roxana, why do you believe that?
Why are you even saying this to me? Like, and let me tell you why that's not true. So as you're telling me all of the stuff that you want to tell me, I'm not going to hear that. I'm going to hear my own thoughts of what I want to tell you. And I want to let you know that actually what you've just said is not true. So I'm going to make the whole case against what you just said. And that's where we don't even understand where we're coming from.
Or
and that's
make a whole case
hurtful.
to understand why you said it. So depending on if you're motivated, it still just went sideways, the whole conversation.
Yeah.
So
and that's why
when you do talk to someone, it either goes one way or the other, right? And so that's kind of what I'm referring to. Depending on what a person's triggers are and what motivates them, it still can go down a negative path if you put somebody in that emotional threat state.
Of course.
Regardless of how they got there, right?
Yeah. So that's why when you use I and you let them know, okay, this is what I see, this is my experience of it, this is what I feel, right? It's the way I like to describe it is help me watch your movie with you. And we're looking at your movie now. Well, this is what Veronica recorded with her camera. This is what happened from her perspective. And we're watching it together. And then we get to the end of your movie and you're describing this, and that, and this is how I feel. It's like you're the hero of that story. And then you turn to me and say, okay, what can we do? I don't want to feel that way again. That's really painful for me. And now I understand because you just showed me the movie and I can resonate with how you feel. What can we do to improve it next time? What can we do to make sure that, or a simple, what happened? What happened here, Roxana? Why did we have to go through this? And then I come in and I say, I give you my side of the story. And we watch my movie. And then we create our story together. But it's going to take you being able to describe it for me, to describe how you see it and how you feel it. And then allowing me to step into the conversation. A lot of the times we make feedback a monologue and we don't help the other actually have a reaction or we don't ask a question.
There was a great segment with the Neural Leadership Institute. They did a lot of studies around the power of feedback. And you might ask, well, what does that have to do with creating change in organization? Well, in order to change, you create feedback loops, right? Modern change management. So it is related. And what they talk about is, is getting ahead and asking for the feedback versus waiting to give the feedback.
Yeah.
Right. And what that looks like. Now, I know one of the things that, just to kind of circle all of this together, when we talk about power of language, and I loved what you said about, I'm going to give my story, my movie, and connect people. And so then you come along with me. That's the same thing as when we talk about in transformations or OKR implementations, all of these things that are trying to bring people along. Why we say, hey, why Agile? Why OKRs? Why are you doing, this, and asking leaders to explain that? It goes directly to what you're saying of they're telling their story of the why. Yeah. They are connecting with what made sense for them. And hopefully they're doing it in a way that is using those senses to the movie analogy that you have. So you want to come along with them.
Yeah. That's how we start to resonate, because we get to see ourselves in that hero's shoes or we start to think, oh, what would I do if I was the hero of this story? That's when we start to resonate more. And that's when then we can actually have that rational conversation. Let's see what we do, because we've already connected emotionally and we're on the same wavelength, right? You cannot, and then we speak the same language, and then we can make the same change. Otherwise, we're going to create two different kinds of changes, right?
I actually love that, the hero of this story. And so
Yes.
imagine if you're actually telling a story, either could be your own or an analogy, and everyone that is part of this organizational change, your department, your team, because I know that you work with team managers a lot,
Yes.
and that they can start seeing themselves the hero of that story.
Yeah. Yeah. And the reality is, in all of the projects and tasks and every responsibility that we have, we're the hero of that little piece that we're responsible for. And then if you look at things through that lens, and it's going to be easier to say what I like about what's happening in the story as a hero, and what I don't like about what's happening, and what other hero could help me with that. Because, right, I mean, superheroes work best in a league. That's why you have all of the superhero leagues and stories and movies and everything else, because they have different kinds of powers, and they get to complement each other and work together.
We didn't touch on this, but I think this is a great example, because this is real. This is actually happening today on this show. Is even when you're thinking about your words, it's also the energy that you bring.
Yes.
So I was late. I was up to here today, and my preparation for the show, this week, I'm admitting, and I don't know if you sensed it, but when we started the show, the energy was kind of like this. But as we progressed, we kind of got our groove, and the energy shifted. I don't know if you felt it, but I felt it.
Yeah.
It's the combination of the energy that you bring into the room and the things that you say. I think that's really the secret sauce. What do all of you think out there? Because you can say things, but people aren't feeling it. Even if you choose the word, it's just the energy that's coming out in you.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of it is here, right? Is believing it.
Yeah, yeah. But there's energy, and we react to it. Like the example I like to use all the time, like, imagine that you have somebody calling you who gives you a great news, like, hey, Veronica, I just got the job that I applied for and interviewed for, and I'm so happy. And you immediately go, oh, okay, wow, that's amazing. Well done. Great for you. Tell me more. Like, we get in there, like, with them, with that energy. I'm not going to be, oh, yeah, okay, fine, perfect. And then not say anything.
It's crazy, because when you have an off day, and which I'm admitting, it's been an off day, you still have to figure out how to collect yourself. And the best thing is, be honest.
Yeah, exactly. Because it shows. It's going to show in your level of energy. It's going to show in the how you say what you say, and in the how you do what you do. It really shows. When you're frustrated, when you're annoyed, when you're happy, when you're sad, it shows on your body language. And we know that 55% of communication is body language. So guess what? If you're telling me, I'm so happy and I'm so excited to see you, what am I going to believe? What you're telling me or what you're showing me? People are always going to believe body language first. So if you're showing them frustration in the body language and you're telling them, I'm so excited to see you, they're going to believe your body language.
And that's where working remote, why we try to be on camera more, or you have to start paying attention to tonality.
Yes, because that is the next best thing that people believe.
However, everybody's different, and sometimes it can throw you off by a person, how they're talking. So, for example, here in the United States, depending on maybe the regions of where you've grown up, we talk about like certain East Coast, more aggressive talking versus, more mellow over, on the West Coast. And that tonality is very different, but the person may not even be angry at all. It's just the tonality that comes out. And so it's so hard. And I'm bringing this up as some of you are maybe change agents or trying to create change in an organization where it's highly remote and people aren't getting on the cameras. And so what do you do? So this is where asking questions and continue to probe and really pay attention to the words that people are using and try to match them, right? Match, lead, right?
Yeah.
And that's how you can probably change the dynamic of the conversation. So then they are coming along with you. And that's the art and science of making sure you're paying attention and listening.
Listening, matching.
Sometimes I have to put the notes to see if I'm hearing the cues when I'm having conversations with people, because I'm trying to match.
Yeah.
And again, we're not on camera.
Exactly.
So I'm like intently listening, trying to find my match cues.
And then the number one rule, know your audience. You have a presentation, you have a meeting, you have whatever it is that you have. What do you know about them? Do you know their background? Because if you have that information about where they're from, right? Do a little bit of research. Try to find out who they are. Where, even knowing that difference, are they on the East Coast or on the West Coast? Or were they born on the East Coast or were they born on the West Coast? Because that comes with, it's a cultural thing. They don't know that they're doing it. They're just doing it because everybody else there does it. This is how people talk in that particular area. So knowing that about them already, you know what to expect, right? Or you know how to prepare. Yeah. So know your audience all the time. Try to know stuff about them so that you actually can communicate easier. How are you going to influence them if you don't know anything about them? And by the way, when you're trying to influence people, I love it. It's in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. You're not going to be able to influence them unless you can also be influenced by them. Because again, it is a two-way street. So how much influence are you able to receive from others around you so that you can also influence them? Because if you have a wall right in front of you, nothing comes in, how is anything going to go out?
And it's a direct correlation to how you are actively listening. Because that wall is a barrier to receiving that information and understanding what or how people are actually talking to you, right? When we talk about learning language and behavior. Now, speaking of audiences, we have a couple things going on.
Whoa, we do. I mean, you really have.
The 5, well, we're going to actually get into one of the landmines is messaging. And with the leaders and talking around when we're implementing OKRs and Agile transformation. So it's the 5 landmines to avoid when implementing. And this is one's going to be fun. This is a webinar like a fireside chat, but with creativity. Oh my gosh. And the more that we kept organizing around this, we're actually telling a story and weaving it into the 5 landmines. So it's going to be fun. We have 3 highly creative, different perspectives, people on this session. So I'm looking forward I'm going to actually have fun on it. And I hope that you'll have fun too while you learn a couple of interesting tidbits. So come join us. I put the bit.ly in there, but I'll also put that link in this segment as well. Now you have your 3 must-have communication skills for emerging leaders. Yeah. And so this relates to also today's show as well. And
absolutely. It does. And really, we talked about, and one of them, it's I'm going to give it away. It's definitely listening, because especially as an emerging leader, that you want to prove that you're a great leader, that you're good at leading people in teams and everything. And it's hard to listen better initially, so that you can get a sense of who your people are, what they expect from you, what the background is, so that you can actually build on that. It's like gather all of that material that you can actually start building with, rather than just talking about building. So we're gonna dive a little bit deeper into how you can use the 3 communication skills to really set yourself up as a leader, to raise your profile and to stand out from the crowd, because really that's the whole purpose of it. So join me on August 26th at 12:30 p.m. We're going to have the link in the comments as well.
All good stuff that is happening in the next 2 weeks. Now, next week, I promise we'll be a lot more organized than today. Okay. I'm realizing this note to self, when you keep jumping around, preparation is important on that. So influencers, we are going to be talking about something very interesting. The masculine and feminine styles for impact. Now, do we have a guest coming on? I wasn't sure if we solidified that yet.
No, we don't know yet. We might.
Ooh, it's going to be a mystery, folks.
Yes.
So next Tuesday at 12:15, yes, 12:15, we will be talking about the masculine and feminine styles for impact. And yes, everyone has it, believe it or not.
Doesn't matter the gender that you identify with, you have the style.
And we're gonna debunk that, because every time when people bring up the word masculine and feminine, they tend to think it is a gender thing, and it has absolutely nothing to do with it.
Nope.
So we're gonna dive into that next week. I think that one's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Love
it. As we bid adieu, we thank all of you for either joining us live or the replay. And this is going to be, is that our last influencer series, or do we got one more?
I think
we got one more.
We have one more.
August has 5 weeks. We got one more.
Yeah, but also because people liked it. I mean, we got great feedback from you watching that you like this series. So let's see what we do with it. Do you want us to continue with the influencer series, or what is another series that would be interesting for you to do? Let us know.
We would definitely want some feedback on that, because it's all about what's relevant out there.
Yeah.
So tune into next time. We will see everyone here on the Game Changing Work channel at 12:15 Tuesday. Bye, everyone.
Bye.